Is Trish worth running in Triangle Strategy, and is she any good? In this video, we're going to analyze Trish as a unit, what her strengths and weaknesses are, and what she brings to the table. Alright, for Trish, I'll actually talk about how to unlock her. I'll probably make a recruitment guide in the near future, but essentially you have to pick a specific route to unlock her. She's one of the route-dependent characters, so she can be hard to get depending on what route you choose in Chapter 15. This isn't really going to be a spoiler, but to get her, you have to not give up the Roselle, and if I say it generically, you'll have no idea what the hell I'm talking about in reference to things. And then you also have to return to the Roselle in Chapter 15. So that's so vague, it doesn't spoil anything, but that's how you get her. So anyways, let's look at her abilities. Alright, so for stats, she has like medium strength, medium physical defense, kind of lowish magic defense, like kind of low medium. Her luck is decent. It's like medium, it's not high or low. Her accuracy is actually kind of on the bad side, so giving her accuracy bracelets could be useful. She can still be somewhat accurate, but I like to have 100% hit rate. So you could give her like an accuracy bracelet and like a strength bracelet or something if you want to run her. Her speed is like medium high, so it's like, 28 is pretty good. Her evasion is kind of medium. Jump 3 is nice for an archer. Movement 4. It's a very standard archer with like average durability, decent health, decent damage, some accuracy, some evasion. Most archers are like 3 to 4 move, except for Huette, who's 5. So she's not like super mobile, but let's look at her abilities. So if we look at her basic bow here, you can see that it does like 204 damage and it has a range of 2 to 4. So unlike other archers whose basic attack can get range boosted, so this includes Archibald, this includes Huette, and I think Rudolph can. I could be wrong on that. I think his basic attack gets like +1 range, but hers doesn't. So she's like kind of like a short-range archer. And also you can see here her weapon's called a short bow, so that makes sense. But let's look at her abilities. All right, passive. Increase your fire resistance while decreasing your ice resistance. So similar to a mage, that like Frederica, she has 30 fire resistance and then -30 frost resistance. So she takes scale damage from frost, and she's tankier against fire. So that's kind of whatever. It's not really good or bad, because depending on what kind of enemies you're running into, like it could be good or bad, or just kind of mixed if there's like a fire and an ice mage in the enemy team. So it's fine. Next you have Flaming Arrow. This is her big damage ability. 297 fire type physical damage and set the ground ablaze. So this is fire damage, I'm fairly certain. So if an enemy is resistant to fire, like actually I do know this because I was like, when I was using her, like it'd say weak or resistant. So this is reduced by, like resistance is still reduced even though it says fire type physical damage. I don't know why it says that. It could just say fire type damage. I guess the way, okay, so I guess this kind of makes sense. So it looks at their physical defense instead of magic defense, and then it also looks at the resistance. So that's how it works. So that's why it says that. So if you shoot like a tank, like an enemy tank with high like physical defense, it won't hit as hard because it's physical type damage, because their physical defense is high, but their magic is low. So it's basically better against things with lower physical defense for higher damage, which is okay. Next we have Leap. Plus or minus 10, a range of 1 to 5. So it's essentially moon jump. It still costs 1 TP, except you can't act afterwards. So it's okay. It's actually honestly it's decent for repositioning, so she can kind of stay mobile. But yeah, it's okay. It's decent. It's basically like moon jump, except you can't perform another action. If you could, I would say this makes her much better, but I'll get into her ranking after I go over everything. Alright, Item Gatherer. Things like this, it's like, why? Like, I understand, like, she's a thief and they really want to emphasize this, like, get items thing, but I just don't think these things are really worth it. Like, pick up spoils along your path. Like, I've never found that picking up spoils is, like, such a pain. Like, here's what you do. If you have to kill all the enemies on the map and there's a bunch of spoils you want to pick up, you kill everything except for like 1 or 2 of them, or you just leave an enemy healer alive that can't even harm anything, and then you just pick them up. So it's like, I guess maybe this saves you time in some instances, but it's just not good. It's just, it's not big value enough. It's just, honestly, it's like one of the worst abilities in the game. And then like the other thing too is like Lionel gets 1k every time he picks up a spoil, so this would be great on him, but you know, because you use him for farming, and you can also run him. He's a good unit, but yeah, it's just whatever. Plundering Shot, another ability that's just low value. I'd rather this just deal more damage or something. Chance to steal an item from an enemy when using a normal attack. So when you're just shooting enemies, you have like a 25% chance to just steal like a random item. So it's not really that good. Like Item Gatherer, Blessing of Fire, Plundering Shot, like these are like low impact abilities. I just don't really see them being good. And I have run her for a few missions, and like tested her out, and like she's basically like an archer that steals things. So like I would just say Archibald in some cases is probably just better because he has better range. Next we have Bullseye. Deal physical damage to a single enemy. This attack is guaranteed to hit. So this does less damage than her base attack, and with probably even just with 1 accuracy bracelet, your basic attack will have usually 100% chance to hit. So this is just a bad ability. It doesn't have increased. It has less damage. Doesn't do anything. It just wastes TP. It honestly is just bad. Next we have No Honor. See another stealing thing. Increase the likelihood of stealing items from enemies affected with status ailments. The funny thing is, it increases it by like 3%, so it went from 25 to 28%. And then we have her last skill, which actually makes her somewhat competitive on a team. Act twice on your turn for 2 turns. This is the only thing that makes her even worth thinking about in my eyes, because everything else is just low impact and not very good. But this can be maintained as long as she's getting hit with a battery or just not spamming her skills. Like you can just use 2 normal attacks, which actually is okay. But then on your second turn, you either use 2 more normal attacks, or like a flaming arrow and a normal attack, or you know, you shoot again and then you act again. So you basically just get 3 turns instead of 2. So it's not as good as it seems. And you also have to spend a turn to get it. So if you actually think about it, you're not even getting a turn. So very, very weird skill. I'll go over how it's useful, because there's like burst damage, and triggering up combos, or like setting up combos, is kind of worth it, the setup. But all right, let's look at her upgrades. Okay, so for her upgrades, because she's a damage dealer, you want to get all the damage upgrades. So there's 2 + 5 damage in rank 1 and 2, and then a +10 damage in rank 3. You want these because she deals damage. Next we have increased physical defense by 1. You can get it. It's not big value, but if you want to get it, you can get it. And then you have speed 1 and speed 2. These are always good on any unit. It increases turn order. So, and it increases or decreases their turn order, I guess. So like they're higher. Like, all right, I guess increases make sense. They're higher in the turn order, so you're gonna be acting faster than other units. So increase accuracy with clear weather. Decrease the TP cost of leap. So you can leap for free, which is nice because, you know, at least she can reposition for free. So that's like one advantage she has over other archers, aside from Huette, who is probably just better than her in every way, to be honest, the more I think about her kit. Because Huette, her big damaging skill, let's actually look at it really quick. All right, we can't check it here, but we can check it in the roster in a second. But yeah, this one's weird. Treasure and TP grants 1 TP when picking up spoils. This is bad. Like for TP management, I would rather it be like whenever you steal from an enemy, you gain 1 TP because you can steal from them at range. I would rather it be that than this, because with this she has to be in the fray, or at least exposed, like, and you don't have control over where an enemy dies because you don't know where they're going to be. So unless you like Fury them and move to specific squares or something, this can just be really inconsistent. And you know, spoils are very kind of uncommon anyways. Maybe there's like a handful of spoils a match, so you're not going to be getting that much TP off of this. Then next we have the Act Again ability. This is her biggest upside to, like, this is the best thing about her kit, and I'll show it in a match. Being able to shoot something twice and get like 2 crits or get like 2 follow-up attacks with an ally is big value and can contribute to damage, but we'll go over that soon. All right, and then we have increased luck 1, luck 2, luck 3. If you plan on running her, like if you want to run her even though she's probably not like the best archer, like she's an okay archer, you're going to want to get luck to increase her crit rate, so when she's shooting things that aren't facing away from her and shooting them in the back, she'll still have a decent chance of critting them. So, alright, so that's it for her upgrades. And then really quick, let's look at Huette. Let's look at her, like, damage. No accessories. Oops. Let's hit Y. Alright, so her base damage is comparable. And then for Shadow Stitching, it does do less damage, but it immobilizes, and then she also can blind. So it looks like she has a little bit more damage, but the thing you'll quickly realize with Trish is that you're either using Flaming Arrow or you're trying to maintain Act Again and then just using like basic attacks or your battery and Flaming Arrow. And this can be decent, but you have to consider that in order for Act Again to be worth it, you have to use it a few times in a row. So I'll actually show why, like in a little mock battle, so you can see like what the problem is with it. We'll just do this level 3 one because it doesn't matter about the enemies' stats. So for positioning, just like with all archers, she wants high ground for damage boost. She wants to be kept out of the fray. Even though she has like almost 500 health, she still shouldn't be in the fray. So we'll just use Trish and Julio. Alright. Okay, so I'll show you the Act Again problem. We'll just do this very simply and just count the turns, because if you just use it once, it literally doesn't do anything. And that seems counterintuitive, but because you're like, oh, but I get to act twice. But it's actually the case. So, okay. Okay, so if you want to maintain Act Again, so let's say Act Again. So I have now spent 1 turn doing nothing. Great. Okay. So I wasted a turn. Okay, so keep that in the back of your head, or the back of your mind. Alright, I'll have him give her 3 TP. Have Julio give her 3 TP. Alright, so first turn she does nothing. Second turn, let's say she like does 2 actions, so she like leaps. That's her first action. Now she could attack, so let's just, for the sake of argument, we'll just say she attacked twice. Just because these will get one-shotted, so I can keep them alive. Alright, so she attacked twice. So far, you have to keep in mind, though, right now, I spent a turn doing nothing, and then I attacked twice. So yes, I acted twice. However, I spent the turn doing nothing. So if I just would have attacked once, and then attacked once again, I still would have attacked twice using 2 of her turns. So it's not as good as it seemed. And then... So then we get to the third turn. I'll start killing somebody. So there's like 1 left. He can just pass. So we get to the third turn, and then so I shoot something, and if I want to get the value from the skill, this is how you have to use the skill. You have to act again here, and this is how you start to profit turns, because right now, so if I shoot again, I've spent 3 turns attacking through 4 times. Like if I just shoot again, and then I'm just back to normal. So you barely get 1 turn. But if you act again now, you'll get 2 turns. You'll get 2 attacks, and then 1 attack, act again. 2 attacks, 1 attack, act again. So you'll have like an extra turn. So like you have to use it over time. Now you can use it for quick burst, but essentially what you're doing is you're spending. You spend a turn to put it on you, and then you attack twice, and at that point you haven't really gained anything from it, and then if you attack twice again, you've gained 1 extra attack. So, whereas if you... Yeah, I think you like always get 1 extra attack, actually, the more I think about it. because even if you maintain it, you just get so basically no matter what you do, you just get one extra attack. So it's not as good as it seems. And she has to burn through her TP to get it, or be fed like fed a battery. Have a battery just like feed her TP, and her damage output is like not super high impact enough to justify doing this. Like, you're literally just better off using like Archibald and having him just inescapable shot things, which hits harder and hits further out. So I would and he also has like a pretty high chance to instant kill targets below 50. So there's even a good chance he just straight up two shots things, or just like chips something and kills it. So her act again thing is interesting, but she needs to bring more to the table. So she's a decent unit. She's not a bad unit. But her big thing is like this act again. If it lasted for 3 turns, I would say she's a really good unit. But because it just lasts for 2 turns, and like she has all these like dumb abilities like Item Gatherer, Plundering Shot, No Honor. Like, she has a lot of, and then Bullseye is like useless. Basically, the only good things about her kit are Flaming Arrow and Act Again. And Act Again, as you saw, virtually just gets you 1 extra turn. So like in every situation, right? Like, unless you also have like Medina nowing her or something, but in which case, like, the argument that she'd be getting more turns, like, Medina would give anyone more turns in that situation, so it's not exclusive to Trish. So like right now I can attack twice, and keep in mind I had to use an action to do this. And she can move and attack twice, so like she essentially has like 10 move, or whatever it is, or 8 move. So that kind of gives her like more offense, and it also lets her be like bursty, so she can like deal damage. But if she had more damage oriented things, I would say she's worth running. But you can see here, if I want to attack this, I have to shoot this and then use Act Again. So I'm basically just getting 1 extra turn, like 1 extra attack. And it is true that you would get 2 extra attacks if you were to just burst through it on the second Act Again, because on the first Act Again, you don't have 2 actions, right? Like, you use Act Again on your first turn, that's 1 turn you could have attacked. On your second turn, you can attack twice. Great. On your third turn, you can either attack twice to get in an extra attack, because at this point, the first 2 attacks are nothing because you had to waste a turn, so it doesn't make a difference there. And then the second turn is where you get the extra damage. So the second turn, when she attacks for the first time, this is 3 turns, so she could have attacked 3 times. So she's probably getting in less damage than if she were to just use Flaming Arrow, because you're just going to burn through TP to maintain or to use Act Again. So you either attack for a 4th time, which finally, after 3 turns, gets you an extra attack, or you Act Again, which doesn't get you an extra attack for those first 2 turns, and actually you have spent 3 turns attacking 3 times and using Act Again twice. So if you've burned through 6 TP in 3 turns to attack 3 times, normal attacks. So this is the problem with Act Again. It needs to last 3 turns for her to be competitive, and it probably needs to be like 2 TP. And Flaming Arrow, like, Bullseye needs to be replaced with something better, and then she would be like A tier. But honestly, she's like B, possibly C tier, because like the thing I just outlined, it's like burning 6 TP to attack 1 more time for low, like kind of like lowish damage, is not really worth it in general. Sure, you can condense your damage. So what does that mean? So like, attacking over time, there's chances enemies get healed, there's chances enemies move. Attacking twice in 1 turn does allow you to hit something twice. So if you have a good position on, like, against some enemy, you can hit something twice in the back. Maybe you have an ally to follow-up attack, so she can trigger 2 follow-up attacks, and that could be useful for just like spiking something. But like, spending all this TP just to like barely be more effective than other archers who are just out of the box like more effective and don't need to waste their TP in this way is not the best. Her damage is like medium, so it's definitely a little bit higher than Huette. But her range is non-existent, and she doesn't have any good abilities aside from Flaming Arrow. Like, this is honestly her best ability, and it's just okay. So you can see here the damage boosted it from like 290 to 326 because it's clear weather. So she's decent, but I would say she's like B tier. So should you waste or should you bother unlocking her, because it's like one of the chapter 15 unlocks, because there's four different paths to take. Honestly, I don't think it is worth it. I mean, if you want more archers, go for it. But I don't think, like, her kit is just too weird. Like, I remember looking at this on, like, the guides before I unlocked her, and I'm like, so she just, like, steals things? It's like, that's not really useful. So, but yeah, these are her abilities. Then you can see Bullseye here. It just does less damage. 100% hit rate is whatever. I would rather have Bullseye automatically crit and have lower base damage, so it basically hits harder. I think that it would be good, because that's, Bullseye kind of makes sense. Maybe it has a crit. But aside from Flaming Arrow, like the Act Again thing I've outlined, when you maintain it, you're going to be burning through TP, so you're just going to be getting off basic attack. So it's possible that even though you get an extra attack or two once it's maintained, Flaming Arrow just would have dealt more damage, because it's like an extra 100 damage. So if you just would have used Flaming Arrow every turn for like 3 turns, it would probably deal more damage than just shooting twice on average, because like you don't shoot twice every turn too. So like if you want to maintain it, you get 1 extra hit. So actually, let's do this math really quick. So let's say you spend 3 turns and you have a battery, because both of these kind of assume a battery. You Flaming Arrow 3 times, it does around 1,000 damage. Or you Act Again and then attack 4 times, which is a little bit less than 1,000 damage, because it's like, it's not 250, it's 225. So honestly, Flaming Arrow, honestly, I don't even think Act Again is good if this is the case. The only instance in which it's all physical damage. The only instance in which Trickster's shortbow spam would be better is for triggering follow-up attacks, or for shooting enemies that don't have fire resistance. So if an enemy has fire resistance, it reduces Flaming Arrow damage. But if they don't, this is just going to deal more damage, unless you have like a bunch of follow-up attacks set up, which is possible. So, yeah. So, I mean, in a lot of cases, it's easier to play around just spamming Flaming Arrow. You just move her and then shoot a thing. Whereas, like, maintaining Act Again, you're just burning through TP just to get, like, extra attacks off. And she basically becomes, like, like, honestly, I think if she just had Act Again as, like, a passive, if this is just a passive, she would be viable. But because you have to maintain it and only last 2 turns, she, like, suffers from, like, TP. She's like a TP addict. She just needs it really badly, and she can't do anything without it. So I would say she's not really that worth it. The stealing thing is kind of a gimmick. It's easy to farm in this game, so it's not really worth it. If she could steal rare items that you can only get from stealing, that would be a different thing. But even then, you would just do it to get those items, and not because she's like a good unit. She's not like horrible. She can deal some decent damage. She has okay durability, but her range is quite bad. And other archers are basically just better. So let me pull up Rudolph really quick. I was going to look up something on him. Oh, it's not that. We want roster. Alright, let's see. Yeah, his base damage is a little higher. Straight shot basically hits as hard as... It hits a little for a little less damage, but it doesn't have the physical fire damage. So like the fire aspect of it, flame shot, has a chance to increase or decrease damage. So it's kind of like a wash. Like it's not like better or worse. But this just hits pretty hard. Steel Trap is really good utility. He has abilities that are just helping him be better at combat. He has crowd control, 60% chance to slumber for decent damage as well. It still hits harder than a basic attack. He has like an attack that moves enemies back, and then he has an AoE. So he's definitely better than Trish for just like general shutdown and damage. Like, she just has damage. She doesn't have anything else. She just has a little bit of damage and some stealing. That's all she brings to the table. She can hit something twice in the back and trigger 2 follow-up attacks for 2 turns in a row, and that can be useful, so she could be good in that situation. I would say Archibald is also probably better than her in general. Base damage, kind of similar. Edged Arrow ignores defense, which is great against bosses. He has Sniper, which scales his damage the further away things are. Arrow Spray is an AoE that deals low damage, but it hits a bunch of enemies, can trigger a bunch of follow-up attacks, increases range. He can use this for 1 TP, reduce enemies' evasion, then act again. It's fine, it's whatever. Inescapable Arrow, this is his big value. And then Swift End, so he has like a 30 to 40% chance to instant kill things that he hits below 50%. That's crazy. That's so much better than Trish. And then this ability has like absurd range. So if you're gonna dump TP into someone, it would be him. And then Piercing Arrow. You have to like in tandem this or like now or fast acting medication this, but this is like big AoE if you line it up. And then for Huette, she has a little bit less damage than Trish. This is with no accessories too. But she can fly, she can blind, she can use like Shadow Stitching Arrow, she can like do this as a melee attack if needed. And it usually isn't. You can just like put it around an angle and Shadow Stitching. She gets increased range for her first attack. She can grab high ground easy. She can use focus then attack. She can sight set. Oh yeah, I still haven't unlocked her thing because I've stopped using her since the tutorial. But from what I've heard, it's not really that good, but it's okay. It's something you can do. But this ability, sight set, you can park her on high ground, and then if a bunch of enemies are pushing you, she'll shoot every single one of them and enters her range. And like on defensive missions, she'll shoot like 5 to 7 things, which is crazy, for like 50 to 70 damage each, like in between her turns. So this is actually pretty good too for just dealing damage. She kind of becomes like a turret that just like shoots things. But yeah, so I would say Huette's definitely better than Trish as well for shutdown and utility and mobility. But Trish is like okay. It's just that she has all these abilities that just don't help you, like Item Gatherer, Plundering Shot, Bullseye, No Honor. If you removed these from her kit, you would see no difference from her in combat, because Bullseye, there's like no reason to run it. There's not enemies that are so evasive that she's missing often. The only thing that's really good about her kit is Flaming Arrow, Leap, and Act Again. But that's pretty much it for Trish. If you feel like I missed anything, definitely let me know in the comments. If you like this type of content, definitely like and subscribe. I'm going to be finishing up all the other characters. I think this is my 23rd unit guide, so we have 7 more to go. I have 2 characters to unlock and test, so I'll have to do that. I'll have to test them after I unlock them, of course. That's pretty much it for this video. Thanks for checking this out, and I'll see you in the next video.